guys, we're back in the garage, and in the background you can see we got the Corvette, and we are getting ready to basically pull the heart out of this thing. I got Glenn back in the garage with me again, and we got it all wrapped up because the paint on this thing is really good, and so we got some protective coating on here just to help out. And so basically we're going to start off with draining all the fluids. We got the hood off, got some of the little things disconnected, got the battery disconnected. So basically we're gonna get it up in the air. I'll give you guys a look at what it looks like underneath. So you guys can see how cherry this thing is. And we'll get the fluids drained on it, and let's get to work so we can get this 400 horsepower beast inside. All right, we're underneath the vet, and we'll just take a look. Where you can see all this power steering stuff. Once we get the motor out, all that stuff's gonna be gone. So we'll get into more detail with that. And then basically, you can see the car's pretty clean. It's got some work done to it. Nothing crazy, it's all stock stuff, but everything's pretty clean. We're gonna try and maintain this exhaust all the way through, and then depending on how it sounds, he'll figure out if he wants to put a set of mufflers that are better than this on it, or if he wants to leave them on there. For now, let's get these fluids out and get this motor out. But I think while I got it up in the air, I'm going to pop this starter off real quick. So we're going to take the starter off, bell housing, or flex plate cover, and all that stuff. Get all that out, disconnect these lines right here, and just take care of all the couple little things down here just to get undo the headers too. We'll take the downpipes or whatever you want to call them, coming off the header. Get all that stuff off real quick. That way we won't have to really come down here anymore unless we forget something. We're on to converter. Got the cover off, 3 bolts, and we'll slide the converter back. Make sure it spins. Converter's loose.
Just like your mother.
And see, I pushed it back a little bit. You can't really tell, and then you can just spin it free. So that means when I pull the motor out, it's gonna stay in the transmission. And then we'll go up top and take the radiator out real quick. I'll come back down here and get the transmission bolts later. I just want to get some of the crap out the top out, so it looks like I actually got something done. All right, let's pop up there real quick and knock that out. All right, just like before, on the Blazer, we got everything underneath undone. Right, and I just got straps holding the transmission in place. Converters disconnected and ready to go. So we'll go lower it down. We have 2 more bolts on the transmission because I got all the transmission bolts out from down here. And then there's 2 more on top that looks like they're easy to get to.
A few moments later.
All right, got those 2 bolts out, and I jinxed myself because one of them was easy. The one on this side, I ended up getting from the bottom really quick, took a couple minutes. The one on that side, I spent a solid 20 minutes, just 1/4 turn at a time, or not even a 1/4 turn at a time with a freaking hand wrench, and it was just a pain in the ass. So that's what I get for saying they're probably going to be easy. Dumbass! So I got everything. This is a good thing to do, is I got everything labeled, trans bolts, starter bolts, everything's labeled and separated, so that way when we go back to doing things together, we know where they're at and what they're doing. Motor's loose, ready to go. All I got to do is put the deal off of that motor onto this one here so I can lift it up out of the car. Got the motor out, as you can see in the background here. The motor is out, hanging from the picker. And we'll put this motor in something else later, but for now we're just gonna shove it on the side. And you can see in the engine bay here, it needs a little bit of cleaning, so we're gonna start deleting all this, all these vacuum lines and all this stuff. I'm gonna lift it up in the air. Actually, I'm gonna end up pulling a bunch of this crap off and repainting the whole engine bay, make it nice and clean. So we've gotten to the point now where we're gonna do the power steering upgrade from Flaming River. Let me show you what we're taking out and why we're taking it out. So on these older cars and a lot of trucks and stuff like that, the older stuff, you've got like your center link, you've got all this stuff, all these joints that have to be greased. And every time there's like a joint here, there's movement. And it makes everything really sloppy.
Just like your mother.
And then you've got this big shock absorber that's supposed to help. Everything has to be greased, right? You got all these lines, and then it goes up to a steering box. So the steering comes out of here, goes into the steering box. Then it transfers down to like a pitman arm. And then the arm comes down right here, goes into this. So it's like all these, it's like a joint into a joint, into a joint, into a joint, through a whole bunch of connections, and the steering is all wonky and loose.
Just like your mother.
So basically by replacing all this with this particular kit, it's gonna make this car that drives like a 1980 vehicle feel like a modern car. And with the added amount of power we're putting into this thing, we're going from 190 horsepower to like 400. It's gonna make the car just feel a lot safer, a lot better. But anyway, we're gonna get the steering knocked out today. Everything that has to do with steering has to come off all the way up until basically the rod or the bar sticking out for the steering wheel to the rag joint there. And then from that point on, everything steering wise has to come out basically all the way to the outer tie rods. So let's go ahead and knock that out real quick. And that way we have a clean slate and we'll start assembly. Off camera, we painted the engine bay, cleaned everything up, and there's like a bed liner all the way around the whole thing just to kind of make it look a little bit better. And then we did the same thing to the motor. It's ready to go in the car. All right, we're sandwiched underneath the car here. So I'm gonna hang it up in there right now. All right, next day. Got everything ready to go. Motor's getting ready to go back in the car. And I've got everything clean. So we've got a nice clean landing pad. Should slide right on in if everything goes good. I think I'm gonna put a jack under the transmission to kind of get it angled up a little bit, just because I have the motor kind of tilted back a little bit so they can mate together perfectly. Motor's painted, everything's good, ready to go. Got the motor mount switched over because these were the ones that were in the Blazer, and now they got them. They're completely different. So got those set up. And I guess let me set the camera up real quick. Yeah, let's just hope we don't drop it on the car, because that would suck. Got the motor in, and that was a little bit of a struggle because I'm an idiot. I'm over here pushing on it, trying to get it to line up to the transmission. Then I still got it to line up and got some of the bolts in for the transmission. And then I'm like, man, why won't the motor mount bolts go in? It's because this idler pulley that goes right here was hitting against the suspension, and it wouldn't let the motor come in like this and straighten out. So that caused about an extra 10 minutes of me cussing and getting ready to be pissed off. Anyway, I got it to now. And then pretty much from this point on, I can start eliminating some of the wires and hoses and crap we don't need. And hopefully tomorrow I can have this thing fired up. Well, it's tomorrow, and surprise, I don't have it fired up. And here's the reason why.
There's the dumbass.
I've got to do the exhaust. So I currently have the headers mocked up in here. So I've got the starter in permanently. The header's gonna have to come back out, but I have to pull them out and cut the flanges off because I'm getting rid of these 3-bolt flanges that always tend to leak. It'll get a V-band put on there, and the V-band is gonna be way better than these gaskets that always tend to leak. And then I'm gonna toss a piece of flex in on it also. So I've got 2 pieces of flex, 1 for each side, 2 V-bands, and then I'm gonna cut that down. And then that should make the exhaust nice and tucked up underneath there, and it doesn't hit anything. And so that should work out pretty good. I'm gonna try and knock this out real quick, and hopefully I'll have this done in the next maybe 2 hours, 3 hours. So I've got everything just set in here. Nothing's tacked in place yet. Header's tight, V-bands kind of like wedged in there. I'm gonna obviously rotate this around. This is not gonna sit like this. And then I just gotta tack weld it here, here, and here, both sides of here. And then once I get a good weld on it, or a good tack, I'll pull the whole thing down and then weld it on the bench. It'll be a little bit easier. All the exhaust welded up. Let me crawl under there and show you what we got going on. Basically, V-band to the header flex pipe, so it's got a little bit of movement in it. So when the engine's torquing over, and the same way on the other side, and same thing, V-band flex pipe to whatever exhaust that was already on here out to the dual mufflers. So hopefully those mufflers sound good. If not, we'll swap them out. But yeah, so it turned out pretty good. So I'm happy with that. All right, so let's see next. fluids and ready to start after that. I gotta throw the carb on it. And there's a bunch of little things. So, and I'm gonna call it a night. And so hopefully this thing will be starting pretty soon because I want to hear what it sounds like. It's gonna sound pretty badass. But we're back and we're back at it. And I just want to get this thing started. And so what I'm gonna do is just do a quick fire up, make sure it starts and runs. The way to do that is I'm gonna fill the bowls with fuel here and here, and just a little bit of fuel in each one of them. Be a little too much time. All right, we'll let it go at that because I don't have any cooling system hooked up or nothing. And so I don't want to let it run for too long because I just don't want to do that, obviously. And we're happy with that it runs and it starts. I'll have to actually set the timing on the mark and make sure everything's legit. So cool. Okay, we've gotten to the point in time now where we need to set the timing and then adjust the distributor. We don't know exactly where all the settings are for it. We have no idea where the timing's at because we got the motor, the distributor was loose, and all the screws on the carburetor were all moved around and adjusted, but they're not right. So what we're going to end up doing is setting everything back to 0 or down, and then turning it to where we need to. But we know it runs right now, so what we're going to do is get the timing set. So we'll get the initial timing set, and then we'll check the advance and see. I want to get it around 10 or 12 degrees, just pump gas cruiser. So let's go ahead and get into that. I've got the timing gun set up. Motor's not, we have to start the car and warm it up. Right now, as you can tell by me holding the header, it's ice cold. We've got everything ready to go. We'll let it cycle and the fans come off and on. And then we've got the vacuum gauge here hooked up to the front port of this particular Holley carburetor, because this is a full vacuum, manifold vacuum here. Once we get everything started and running, we'll disconnect and plug timing advance, distributor advance. So we'll get that plugged off and then we'll be able to set timing. So let's get the car warmed up and go from there. Listen, I'm not gonna lie, I just kind of put the timing by eye where it's at, and it sounds pretty good. I'm kind of curious as to where it's at. But right now, it's only at 63 degrees. So I wanted to cycle the fans, but just kind of setting it where I thought it was good. Sounds pretty tough. Not bad. All right. So we've got the engine at operating temperature, around 175, 185 between there. You'll hear the fans fluctuating. What we're going to do is set the timing. So now let's set the timing and make sure it's where we want it. Right at 10 degrees. All right, let me see what happens when we go up to RPM in it. Set. All right, so now let's get to the point of adjusting the float bowl level. We got to pop these off, and then we're going to adjust it clockwise, lowers it, counterclockwise, raises it. So So we'll see, we want a little bit of a drip of fuel coming out. We don't want it gushing out. Wait. That's not bad at all right there. I'll leave that alone. And I might even just lower it just a tiny bit and call it good. Didn't leak out too much, so it's not bad. If we wanted to lower it a little bit, we would just loosen this jam nut. Turn it back a hair. Make sure it's tight. That's it. Done deal. Let's check the back one. I already saw fuel coming out of it, so I'm going to lower it some. I can already tell it's a little bit crisper. Alright, so it's got too much fuel in it still. Going up there. See what happens. There it goes. Just a little bit of fuel came out. I call that perfect. Alright, so now we've got those things set where they need to be. Now we can adjust the little idle screws right here, and we're going to use the gauge on that. Idle enrichment screws, there's one here, there's one here. And rule of thumb is you turn them all the way in and then a turn and a half out. What I do is I put them all the way in and then I do a turn and a half out, and then I usually add another full turn. And that is usually pretty much right on, but we're going to check it because now we got a good gauge. And we can check and see what it says. So basically you go back and forth between the two and get them set where you want them. But right now it's idling really good. There's no hesitation, there's nothing wrong with it. Besides that it's off the screwdriver and this light that keeps going. Going down. Back it out a little bit. Get an aeration, get an add to it. Alright, so it just went up a little bit. So my vacuum increased. Right where it needs to be. When I call it done, if I keep going, it goes down back just a little bit. And I'm only going like by half turn increments or even quarter turns. And then just keep an eye on the gauge. And it's running good, no misses. The rev's fast. I'm just gonna check this idle screw real quick. This idle screw, if I turn this inwards, and the idle going up, we want it down at around 800. Yeah, that's good right there. That's pretty successful. We'll call that done. Alright, well we're at that point with the Corvette where we got everything buttoned up. I just got done topping off all the fluids. I figured I'd give you guys one last look at the final product and how nice it is. It's really good. So that's where we're at right now. The only thing I forgot I got to do is just I want to trim these worm clamps down a little bit. But other than that, the owner asked if I could lightly spray paint these black just to kind of not have that copper or what do you call it, bronze like look in the engine bay. So, but anyway, that's it. We've got everything tuned perfectly. I mean, it fires right up even when cold. 2 pumps and you give her a kick, and yeah, I couldn't be happier with the outcome. So rev's good, everything's perfect on it. It just runs like a champ. Still get a little bit of an idle video back here. So the only thing we got to do now is go for a test ride, which I don't see there being a problem with that. Besides, it's raining. But other than that, I think we're good to go. I just want to thank you guys for hanging out with me throughout this adventure. And we've got a couple more cars stacked up in the back that we're getting ready to start working on. So if you can, please make sure you like, subscribe, hang out. And if you get a chance, run on over to TexasRacingChannel.com and check out our merchandise. We have a whole line of products. And everything that you get from there helps to support the channel. And we just enjoy doing car stuff. And I just want to thank you guys for coming along on this trip.